Hi everyone, Salesforce Consulting Admin Training Day 35. Let's see what are we going to learn today. So we'll quickly go through the previous session of overview, and our focus today is only on the validation rules. So yesterday we have started the validation rules and we have seen one of the use case. We have seen one of the use case on the object level. So if you go to the account, if you go to the validation rules here, yesterday we have created the validate account number. Validate account number. If it is a blank, then we are throwing an error or a validation message while saving the record on the client side. So validation rules are validated on the client side. So whenever we are saving a record, that time if there is a no account number, it is going to throw an error. That's what we have started yesterday, validation rule. So today also we are going to continue the validation rules. And we are going to see multiple functions that are provided by the Salesforce. So if you click on this validation rule, and if you click on new button on the validation rule, we have a multiple functions that are provided by Salesforce. So I'm going to cover the one which we are going to use it in real time. So validation rule functions, and then we'll have a trailhead links. The first validation rule function for today is Boolean is null. Boolean is null. Yesterday, the one which we have seen is blank. Is blank. Now validate account number is blank. Validate is blank is a account number. And today we are going to see the is null. So is null is going to cross verify only for the numbers. Only for the numbers. So here is blank is we can check on the number as well as we can check on the text also. Is blank, we can check whether it is an empty text or empty number or not. But today's thing is we are going to check only the is null. So is null field name is going to cross verify only the number fields. It will not accept the text field. So this function return true if the specified numerical fields is nothing but currency, percentage number, value, right? Percentage number, currency, any of this that you see that number, then this is going to work. Is null is going to work for only the numeric field. So it is going to check numeric field is empty or not. Example, is null annual revenue, right? Is null annual revenue. Now let's see the use case. Create a validation rule on the lead object to make sure the annual revenue value is required. Now if you go to the Salesforce and if you open the lead, whenever we create a new lead or whenever we open up the existing lead, in the lead, we have a detail section. There is an annual revenue option is available. Control F, annual revenue. So we have an annual revenue which is available on the lead object. So the requirement is create a validation rule on the lead object to make sure the annual revenue is required. Annual revenue is required. That means here the validation rule is on the field called annual revenue. Annual revenue. Field is annual revenue. So when we have to cross verify, we need to check whether this value, there is a value or not. So I'm going to use is null annual revenue. This is what I'm going to place it onto the validation rule. Now, where should I be creating the validation rule? Which object I should be creating the validation rule?
Lead object.
Lead object. So if I go to the account, if I go to the object manager here, let's search for a lead and select a lead. And here we have a validation rule. And click on a new button, validation rule. We are checking the annual revenue value. Validate annual revenue. Validate annual revenue. So validating annual revenue value. That means whether it is there a value in the annual revenue or not. So the condition which I'm going to take is the function is ISNULL. Select the ISNULL, click on the insert selected function, and the expression I'm going to add the expression is insert field. Select the lead. Here I have a annual revenue. Insert it. If you want to type it, you can type also. That should be fine. Click on check syntax. No errors is found. Now let's go to the annual revenue is mandatory. And I wanted to show the error on the annual revenue. Click on a save button. Now, did we activate this validation rule? Yes, we have activated. Now let me go back to the lead and click on edit. Let's take out this annual revenue, click on a save. So whenever I'm clicking on the save button, it says that annual revenue is mandatory on the field level. Annual revenue is mandatory at the field level. Similarly, at the bottom, it is showing an error message. So in case if you are doing this kind of a edit, right? So here also, if you are removing this and click on a save, it is still showing me the error. Even for the new record also, it is going to show the error. So this validation rule works for both on the new record as well as the existing record. For example, if I create a new record, now I have received a lead. So the last name of the person is Paul and the company is, let's take it as a Dell, and that's all lead status. I'll click on a save button. Now here annual revenue is expected. If I provide an annual revenue, and click on save, then it will allow to save the record. It will allow to save the record. Now I can see that annual revenue is here. That's the use of IsNull. So the IsNull is only, we are going to check for the numerical field values. And the second use case is create a validation rule on the position object to make sure maximum budget should be always higher than the minimum pay. That means on the position object, if you go to the position object and let's open the existing record. In the position object, we have two fields which are called minimum pay and maximum budget. Minimum pay and maximum budget. For example, I got a job for this position. I got a job for JavaScript position. When I received a JavaScript position and when I looked at the record, minimum pay says $60,000, but maximum one it says $40,000. $40,000. But if you look at here, the maximum budget is very less than the minimum pay. Now, as a candidate, I'll be confused. Here it says that minimum pay is 60,000, maximum pay is 40,000. Now, is it correct information or wrong information? Because if they are saying that it starts from the $60,000, but it ends with the $40,000, which is not right. As per the history, the record is not right. So these kind of scenarios, if I wanted to prevent this, that means it should not allow the maximum budget less than the minimum pay. Maximum budget should not allow the amount which is less than the minimum pay. So that is the requirement. Requirement says that to make sure maximum budget should be always higher than the minimum pay. Always higher than the minimum pay. Now, where should I be creating? Now, first of all, how can I check the condition here? Now, I have two fields. One is a minimum pay. Minimum pay. And the second one, I have a maximum budget. Maximum budget. So we have two fields. We have two fields, minimum pay and maximum budget. So on these two fields, we have to create a validation rule. Now, what is the criteria? It says maximum budget should not be always, should be always higher than minimum pay. Always higher than minimum pay. That means minimum pay should be less and maximum budget should be higher. Maximum budget should be higher. Or else, if I see that minimum pay is higher than the maximum budget, now I wanted to show an error message. Anytime minimum pay is higher than the maximum budget, I wanted to show an error message or show a validation message to the users on the position object. Now let's go to the Salesforce. Now let's go to the position object. In the position object, click on edit object. Now let's go to the validation rule. Now here I'll click on a new. So I'll say here maximum budget should be higher than minimum pay. Should be higher than minimum pay. Let's say maximum budget should be higher. Now in the description, maximum budget should be higher than the minimum pay. Now the condition here, I'm not using any function. I'm not using a function. So let's insert the fields that I'm going to use it. One is minimum pay. Select the minimum pay and then select the maximum budget. Insert. Now I have two fields. In between this, I need a greater symbol. So this operator, greater operator, for greater operator, we do not have any function. We have separately the operator. So if you want to check, if you want to use the greater operator, you can use the greater operator. So all the operators are sits into the here. So if you click on the insert operator, you can see all the operators here. Now, if you want the functions will be here. For this kind of scenarios, to check the higher value or the lowest value, if you want to compare or if you wanted to do the division less than equal to right? So these scenarios, you can directly use the operator. You can directly use the operator. So now let's see here. I'll say that maximum budget should be higher than minimum pay. Now field. So validation rule, it can show the validation error only on a single field. Only on a single field. I cannot show the error message on the two fields, which is not possible through the validation rule. For example, if you have a scenario, let's say that scenario is whenever the new lead is created or a new position is created, whenever we create a new position, now I wanted to check the 10 fields values and show the error message in the 10 fields below the 10 fields, which is not possible through the validation. Because you can show only error message only on the one field. I can do the check condition, I can do that. Like I can include 10 fields here condition, I can do that. But displaying the error message only at the top of message or at the field level, I'll be doing it. Only at the top of message or field level, we will be doing it. So only one field I can show the error message. It is not possible at a time showing the validation rule on the more than one fields. Now here I'll say here maximum budget. Now click on it, save. Click on save. Now I have created a maximum budget. Let's go to the JavaScript and let's edit this. Click on edit. Now this time I'll just click on a save. It is going to throw me an error saying that maximum budget should be higher than the minimum budget. Now if I give more than that, so for example, 70,000, right? So if I click on save, it will allow us to save the report because 70 is higher. In case if you want a greater as well as the equal to, then you have to use it two operators here. So greater than or equal to. Instead of only greater, you can say that greater or equal to. Greater or equal to, and then click on save. Now let's go to the JavaScript here. Let's say instead of 60,000, I wanted to make the minimum pay and maximum budget both are same. Minimum pay, maximum budget both are same. Greater than or equal to. Let me refresh. Let's see whether it will accept it or not. So $60,000, it's not accepting it. So let's give it as a 61. No, done. So equal to is not working in this case. So probably we have to write a multiple conditions if you want a or condition. So we will see that. Now, moving on to the next function is nothing but a Boolean is changed. Is changed function. And output for the is changed is a Boolean. Is changed field name. Is changed field name. And this has to be Boolean. Now, is changed is the one function is used to check whether the specified field value has been changed or not. Specified field value has been changed or not. It returns true if the value has been changed. Otherwise, it returns the false. So here is the Boolean. So that means it returns the output of Boolean. So is changed is the Boolean. Now use case for this is create a validation rule to prevent the user to change the HR record name. Create a validation rule to prevent the user to change the HR record name. Now I need to create a validation rule on the hiring manager. Now on the hiring manager, we have a field called HR record name. We have a field called HR record name. So let's go to the hiring manager. In the hiring manager, let's open the existing one. Now, during the creation of it, so whenever it is created, assume that this record is created. Later, if somebody is changing the hiring manager name, it should not allow them to change it. It should not allow them to change it. Right now, it is allowing it. Right now, it is allowing. Now, we do not want, once the record is created, we do not want the user or whoever is using the Salesforce, they should not be changing the hiring manager name. They should not be changing the hiring manager name. So for that, I need to create a validation rule. So prevent the user to change the hiring manager record name. Now let's go to the Salesforce. Now here, I'll be creating the validation rule on the hiring manager. Hiring manager. Click on the hiring manager. Now let's go to the validation rule. Now here, click on a new button. We are checking the hiring manager name. So prevent user to change hiring manager record name. So same details, I'll put it here also in the description. Now, this time, what I'm going to use is, we are going to use the function called ISCHANGED. We are going to use the function called ISCHANGED. So select this ISCHANGED. And then here, the field which you are going to, I'm going to insert the field. And the hiring manager, we have a hiring manager name. Click on insert. Whenever it is changed, so the output of this will be Boolean. Output of this will be Boolean. That means whenever it is true, then show the error message. So let's say that we cannot change the hiring manager record name. Now click on the field. On this field, select the error message. I wanted to show it on the hiring manager name. And it is active. Now let's click on a save button. Now let's click on a save button. Now let's go to the hiring manager. Let me modify this. Now let me change here 1, 2, 3, click on a save. Now it is showing that we cannot change the hiring manager record name. So which is, we are preventing anybody to change the record. We are preventing anybody to change the record. Now, till this point, any questions? Whatever we have discussed so far. Any question?
Swapna?
Yeah.
See, we implement validation rule in Apex, in trigger as well, right? In flows also, I guess. No, not in
Yes.
flows. Only yeah. So then, what is the order? I mean, first this will be triggered, then the trigger will be triggered.
Yeah. So the order of execution of that we will see in the development class, but definitely we'll have a before validation and after validation. There is a before validation and after validations are there. So we can see the order of execution, because in the trigger also we have a different kind of things. Apart from that, order of execution is any other question?
And this validation rule, does it apply to roll-up summary as well? I don't think.
Roll-up summary means how you are going to implement.
Yeah, it's not going to be used, right? I don't think so. We can implement it.
How you are going to implement for the roll-up summary?
Means something like that. Suppose now count the total number of contacts within account. Okay, inside account. Suppose now the contacts are less than 5, then throw error, something like that. I'm just giving an example.
Okay. So let's
Yeah.
see, do we have any formula fields here? So we have there is a formula field for service tax. Let's go to the object manager and let's click on account. Now let's go to the validation rule. And let's create a new one. Now this time, am I able to see the service tax? So if it is a service tax is greater than, where is it? Service tax is greater than 30,000. Okay, let's keep this greater than 30,000. Formula validation. Now click on check syntax. Now please enter below the 30,000. Now field is, I'm going to select the service tax. Where is the service tax? No, I cannot see here service tax. Okay. Now click on it, save. Let's see this top of the page, click on save. Now, if you are creating a validation rule on the formula field, now let me edit this. Click on a save. It is saying that please enter below the 30,000. But how can you modify the formula field? Does the user has a flexibility to change the formula field? Whether it is a roll-up summary or whether it is a formula field, whatever it might be, right? So it does not have an option to user to edit here. Roll-up summary also cannot be edited. It is automatically calculated, that is read-only. So whenever we have a read-only fields or the formula fields or the roll-up summary, it's not in the user control. If you are throwing an error message to the user cannot do anything there because they don't know how to modify that. So it is we are making it very complicated for the users by showing this kind of errors for the formula field or the roll-up summary. Because it's all the formula field roll-up summary is taken care by the developers. So developers should be aware of this kind of a validation. But this validation is on the user level. So this kind of a validation does not help the user. They can't even edit it. So it is so confusing for them. They cannot save it. It is more of a complicated thing for the user. It's not a good user experience if you are putting a validation rule on the formula field if you want to check the condition. Is that clear?
Yeah. So I think validation rule should never come on any of the read-only field, right?
Yes.
Any read-only field.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Any read-only field, formula field, roll-up summary field, right? If you are making it as a profile level read-only, anything that are there here, it is not going to work. The validation rules are not going to work there. Work is
And
not going to work is nothing, but you can implement it, but
yeah,
customer cannot
no
change.
use. Mhm, mhm. And are there any limits for this one? Governor limits for validation
Sorry.
rule? And are there any limits that we can have only these many validation rules?
So whenever you go to the object, so back to the account, go to the account level, and here you have a something called object limits. So when you go to the object limits, this one is specifically is giving the what is the limit for the each one of them. So like this lookup filter, I can create a 5. Validation rules, I can create 100. Active validation rules, I can create 100. Workflows, I can create a 50. Approval process, I can create a 500. Custom fields, I can create a 500. So you can cross verify in case if you want to check, if somebody asks you to check what is the how many custom fields that you have created so far, whether it can be created few more custom fields or not. Instead of you going to the fields and relationship counting the each custom field here, just go to the object limits and see here for the custom fields, how many are currently in usage and what is the limit and how many can be created, right? Similarly, for the relationship, you can create a 40 relationship, look up relationship and then roll up summary. You can create 25 like this we have. So as I have explained yesterday also, validation rules, the limit is 100. So let's move on to the next one. Next validation rule function is a text field. It is a text field name. We have a function called text. Now, why do we use a text? So this function is used to get the current selected value from the pick list. Only for the pick list, we use a text. Or if there is a some field, which is actually it says that number field, but we have entered the text there. So in case if you wanted to know the text of that particular field, but in the real time, we use this text function only for the pick list field, only for the pick list field, because pick list fields are directly cannot be converted as a text, cannot be converted as a text. Now, let's take a scenario. So the use case is create a validation rule to make sure the contact record lead source field is required. Lead source field is required. So let's go to the Salesforce. Let me open the contact. Let's go here, the contact. Let me deactivate the validation rule that I have created right now. Fine. So we have a two validations. I have deleted the correct one. Okay. So let's go to the contact. Now in the contact, we have a field called lead source. Let's check whether we have a lead source or not here. So we have a field called lead source. In this lead source, we have a certain pick list values. Whether did I hear this person from, whether this person is heard from from web, or is it a phone inquiry of this person, or is it a partner referral, purchase list, or it is a other, right? Or it is a other. Now this value, I wanted to take it. This value, I wanted to take this and then convert that as a text. Convert that as a text. Now here, what is it is saying that create a validation rule to make sure the contact record lead source field is required. That means there should be a value in the lead source. There should be a value in the lead source. Now let's go to the Salesforce. Now let's go to the Salesforce. In the Salesforce, I need to create a validation rule on the contact. Validation rule on the contact. Let's go to the contact, click on the validation rules, and here click on a new. Click on new. Now we are checking the lead source. Validate lead source. Validate lead source. Now here the lead source is, I'm going to check. If I take insert lead source, insert. Now I'm going to check whether the value is there or not. Whether the value is there or not. So that means I'm going to use the is blank. I'm going to use the is blank. Select this, select the is blank, and let's place this into the expression. Now check the syntax. What it is saying that field lead source is a picklist field. Picklist fields are only supported with a certain functions. Now, I wanted to check whenever the new contact is created or whenever we are updating the contact, whether there is a value in the lead source or not. That is the condition that I wanted to check. That is the condition I wanted to check. Now, in this case, it is not accepting because the lead source is the picklist field. For this, first convert this into the text field. First convert this to the text field. Now let's take this as a text field, insert, and let's take out this and then insert. Now check the syntax. Now it is saying that perfectly fine. So whatever the value is there, first it will convert into the text field, then it will check whether this particular field is a blank or not. I'll say that lead source is a mandatory. Lead source on contact record is mandatory. Is mandatory. Now let's say that field, here I'll select the lead source. Click on save. Click on save. Now we have this. Let me unselect this, none. Click on a save. Now immediately it says that lead source on the contact record is mandatory. Now if I select any one of them and click on save, then it is going to allow. Because only it should show the error message whenever we have a blank value here. Whenever we have a blank value. So that is the scenario for the text field. That is a scenario for the text field. And the next one is an AND function. Till now, we have seen a single, very simple, straightforward validation rules. But going more further, let's see how can I include multiple fields. How can I include multiple fields? So we have another function which is called as a AND function. So AND function syntax is AND condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, condition n. So you can enter multiple conditions here. You can enter multiple conditions. It returns true if all the conditions are satisfied, else it returns false. Else it returns false. That means condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, condition n, till whatever conditions we have, all the condition has to be true. All the condition has to be true. Now the next one is a OR function. We have another function is called OR function. So OR function syntax is OR open bracket condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, condition n. And that means it will return true if all the conditions are satisfied. Otherwise, it will return the false if all the conditions are failed. That is the OR condition. Now, next one which we have is NOT function. Next one is a NOT function. So far, we have seen the AND function, OR function, and right now we are seeing the NOT function. So NOT function is this function used to change the result from the true to false. For example, right now, we have just verified the is blank. We have just verified the is blank text lead source. Now, what is the output it is giving? If I have a value, right? If I have a value, if there is a value on the lead source, value, then it returns false. That means there is a value. So we should not show any error message. Now, if you want to change the output value of this, that means if you use a not function here, it will change false to true to false. It will change. If you want to change the value from false to true to false, then you can use the not function. Now, syntax is a not condition. So we will see that. Now, these are the homework. Create a validation rule on the lead object to make the title field as a required. On the lead object, we have a title field. If you go to the lead object, we have a title field. Let's click on the edit. Let's click on the edit. So we have a title field. So when I check this title field, that means title field is mandatory. You are making it as a mandatory whenever the record is created or updated. We are making the title field is a mandatory. That is the first one. Second one is a create a validation rule on the lead contact object. On the contact object to make the email field is required. So on the contact object, we have an email field. So let's go to the Salesforce. Let's go to the contact. In the contact, we have an email field. So this is the email field. So this email field, we are making it as a required field whenever we are creating or updating the contact object. And the next one is create a validation rule to make the amount value is always more than 20,000 for each opportunity. So on the opportunity object, if you open any existing opportunity, we have a field called amount. So that amount field. So we have a amount field here. So this amount field should be more than 20,000. If it is a less than 20,000, then it should throw in validation error. And the next one is a create a validation rule on the account object to make sure annual revenue should be more than 40,000. Similarly, on the account object also, we have a standard field annual revenue. So annual revenue should be more than 40 lakhs. Right. So whenever you have a more than this, then it should, if you have a less than this amount, then it should throw an error message, the validation message to the user. Now let's see the use case. So let's take an example of use case. Create a validation rule on the contact record. To make sure the email field is required if the phone number has been entered. That means, let's go to the contact record here. On the contact record, we have two fields. One is a phone field and another one is a email field. Now, whenever the user is creating the record or updating the record, if the user is entering this, phone number, then email has to be mandatory. If the user does not enter the value, then email is not mandatory. But when the user enter the phone number, email should be mandatory. So that is the use case. Contact record to make sure the email ID field is required if the phone number has been entered by the user, if the user is entering the phone number and if they are not entering the email ID, make it as an email ID mandatory. Email ID mandatory. Now in this case, I have a two fields. One is phone number and another one is email. These are the two fields on the contact. Now what I am checking here, I am checking the email field is blank. Is blank. If it is a blank, when it is a blank, if the phone number is not blank, if the phone number is entered, that means it should not be a blank. Now, if I say here is blank, that means if it is a null. But I need whenever there is a value in it. So I'm going to change here not, and this not is only for the phone number. Only for if it is a not blank. If it is a not blank, phone number is a not blank and email number is a blank. That means I have a this time two conditions are available. Two conditions, and these two conditions has to be this condition has to be mandatory and this condition has to be mandatory. That means here two conditions are mandatory in before firing a validation rule. So that means I'll be using the AND condition here, and not is blank phone number and is blank email. So which is equal to, I'm saying here, which is equal to this. So I'm saying phone number is not blank and email is blank. So what is this? This is the AND condition, or else I'll write it here, AND condition. Now in the validation rule, when you are using a function, you cannot use the function between two fields. Between two fields, you cannot use it. You have to place a function within the function, specify the condition 1, specify the condition 2, and whatever the conditions are there, specify it, then execute it. So all the conditions are true, then only the total will be true. Now this, which object I'm creating the validation rule? I'm creating on the contact. I'm creating on the contact object. On the contact object, click on a validation rule. Click on validation rule and let's click on a new button. Now we are validating the email. Email is required. Email is required if the phone is not blank. Okay. Let's take another one. Email is required for the phone number. Email is required for the phone number. Now, here email is mandatory when user enters the even user enter the phone number. Now here validation, I'm going to use the AND function. So let's take the AND function. So in the AND function, I need to put a multiple conditions here. Multiple condition. The first condition I'm going to place. Inside this, I'm going to use the not function. So I have a not function. I'm using the not function. Within the not function, I need to check whether the phone number is value is there or not. So I'll use the is blank, and within this, the expression is the phone number. On the contact, we have a phone. Let's insert this. Now we have a not is blank phone. Similarly, I'm going to use the another condition here, which is a second condition, is blank email. Is blank email. Now check syntax. No errors. Now let's say that email field is mandatory. Email field is mandatory for when phone is not blank. When phone has a value. Now the field that I'm going to show the error message on the email. Email, I'm going to show the error message. Click on save. Now this is what we have implemented. Now let's go to the edit. Now I'm entered the phone number. I'll remove the email and click on save. It is saying that the email field is mandatory when the phone has a value. Now I'll remove the phone also, click on save. So when phone is null, the blank, then this is also blank, that should be fine. Right? So when the user enter the phone number, whenever the user enter the phone number, enter the email, that is mandatory. Enter the email, that is mandatory. But whenever the phone number is not there, email can be a blank. So that is what we have implemented using the AND condition for this use case. Now, next function is IsNew function. IsNew function. So IsNew function is specifically this function only for to check whether the user is working on a new record or existing record. Whether the user is working on a new record or a existing record. Now, how we are going to identify, how this function is going to identify whether the user is working on a new record or whether it is they are working on a contact record. How the new function is going to identify. How the new function is going to identify.
One is changed.
Changed? No. Changed is nothing but the record is already there. Now the record is not there. I'm clicking on a new button. So how new function is going to identify when I clicked on this new button, whether it is a new or whether it is an existing record, how they are going to cross verify. So internally Salesforce, how they are doing it. Let me switch to the classic. Now let's go to the contact record. Now in the contact record, whenever I click on a new record, let's take this URL. This is the new record. Now let me open the existing record. Now let's take the existing record. This is the old or existing record. Old or existing record. Old or existing record. Now how they are going to identify here. they are going to identify, the new function is going to look for the URL. They are going to look for the URL, whether it is a new or whether it is a existing. They both look for the URL. In the URL, the specific thing is the record ID. If it is an existing record, it has a record ID. If it is a new record, it has a 003. That's it. It has just a 003. So whenever it says first 3 digits here, that means it is a new. If it is a complete 18-digit or a 15-digit record is there, like that means more than 3 digits are there. That means that is a existing record. That is existing record. So that's how the new function is going to identify it. So it returns true if the user is creating a record, else it returns false. It will identify the record based on the URL. So on the URL, it is going to check whether if there is a 18-digit ID, that means that the record is existing record. If it says that just a 3-digit, that means it is a only it is a new record. So let's take the use case. Create a validation rule on the lead object to make sure the city phone field are required upon creating the lead record. Upon creating the lead record. That means whenever I'm creating a lead record, this is only during the lead creation. Whenever I'm creating the lead record, during the creation of lead record, we want city and phone fields should be mandatory. That means here I need to use the function IsNew function because this is only for the new records. IsNew function, then I need to check city. I need to check city is blank or not. So I'll use is blank, city, and is blank, phone, is blank, phone. Now these 3 conditions I need to check. These 3 conditions I need to check. Now between the city and phone, if this is not there or this is not there, any one of is not their value, I wanted to show the validation message. I wanted to show the validation message. So I'm going to use here OR function. I'm going to use OR function. Or that means if city is not null or a blank, or if it is a phone number is a blank, then I wanted to throw an error message. But along with this OR condition, I need to check IsNew. I need to check IsNew. That means totally I have a AND condition here. Totally I have a AND condition. IsNew, that means is it a new record? If it is a new record, and if it is a new record, and we have to check the OR condition here. OR condition of is blank of the city, comma, is blank of phone. Is blank of phone. Is blank of phone. No. I need a new. We need to check only for the new. That is the reason I use the function called IsNew. Also, whenever I'm creating a new record, along with the checking the new record, I need to check whether it is a city or a phone number. Any of these fields or does not have a value. I need to show a validation message. Now let's go ahead and implement this. Now we are implementing on the which object? Lead object. Let's go to the object manager and let's search for a lead record. Click on a lead and here we have a validation rule. Let's click on the new. Now we are checking the new lead record. So let's create it as a new lead record. This is only for the new lead. Now I need to use the AND function. Within the AND function, we have a multiple condition. So let me take out this. Let me take out this, and then within this, I need to check the function is called IsNew. I need to check the function IsNew, comma. We have to use the OR condition, OR function here. Within the OR function, I need to check is blank city, comma. If you want, you can select the insert field and a function, or else if you want, you can write it also here. Anything is fine, city and phone number, right? That is the scenario, right? City and phone. Now I'm going to close the OR condition here. Now let's check the syntax. Is blank. Now let's check the condition. Now, perfect. Now I'll say that please enter city and phone number. Please enter city, phone number for new records. I'll show it on to the top of the page because I have two fields that I need to show error message. Two fields I need to show the error message. So that's the reason I'll place it on the top of the page. Click on a save. Now let's go ahead and create a lead record. Let's switch it to the Lightning. Now let's go to the lead. So lead object here, let me create a new. Let's say here the person name is Mr. Validation. Right, so company is Dell. And let's click on save. I'm not entering the city or a phone number. Annual revenue is mandatory. Okay, so we have some validation rule on the. Also, it is showing the two validation rules. One validation is the annual revenue. Second validation is please enter the city phone number for a new. Now if I click on a save, now it is going to, what happened? Annual revenue. Click on save. Enter valid value. Okay. Okay, click on save. Please enter the city phone for a new record. So city is Hyderabad. Let's take it as a Hyderabad, and phone number is, let's take some phone number. Now click on save. This is for the new record. But if I open any existing record, let me edit. Right now, I do not have a phone number and I do not have a city, but it will not throw any error to me because it's not a new record. The validation which I have created only for the new record, Before moving on, any questions so far?
So now, so we can implement this mandatory field at when we are creating the layout, right? Correct. And when we're creating object as well. So, and then validation. So which is the best practice?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, we can make a field required in different places, right? Like in page layout, when creating the object, so and validation rule as well. So which is the best practice?
Question to you. When you go for a validation rule?
No, see the validation rule, I'm not talking about the complex one now, the simple one, like creating a lead. City is mandatory, that we can keep in the page layout as well, right?
Right. So
required
let me
field.
give you the scenario, the real-time scenario.
Mm.
In the real-time project, we have a different groups. So in the client side, we have a support group, we have a service group, we have a admin group, multiple users are there. Now, if I make it at the page layout level or a object level, right? So what will happen? Everybody is going to see that error. Now let's take a scenario is that client says that only whenever the service team is creating the new lead, that time we need these two fields to be mandatory. That time we need these two fields to be mandatory. In that case, what you can do is you can create a validation rule like this, and you can give a profile level. That means you wanted to check whether the profile level is a service team, or let's suppose I'm going to check here along with the or condition. I'm also going to check the profile. Insert. Now we have to check the profile here. So we have a profile. Let's take a profile name, insert. So I'll say this profile name. So I'll say here excluded for the system admin, excluded for the system admin. So I'll say that system admin should not be getting any error. Apart from the system admin, other should be getting the validation message. Other should be getting the validation message. Now let me get the profile here. So let's go to the profiles. Let's click on a system admin. Let me copy the system admin. Where is it? System admin. System administrator. In the condition, I'll put system administrator, check the condition. Now this is true, click on it, save. Now let's go ahead and create a new record. It should not be giving any error. Now let's create a new record. Now let's say that system admin lead. Now click on it, annual revenue, I have to give it. Click on save. Company is needed, okay. Company is IKEA. So click on it, save. Now what is happening? It is excluded for the system admin. Now these kind of scenarios will happen in the real time. They will say that I need a validation, but that validation should be bypassed for the system admin, or else this kind of a validation I need it for only specific group. Only for a specific group. In that case, you can add a profile here.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next function, which is called a IspickVal. IspickVal. IspickVal is having a two parameters within this. One is a picklist field, another one is a text field, text value. So IspickVal is nothing but picklist value. Picklist value. So is my picklist value equal to this name? If you want to check, for example, you wanted to check on the account level, we have a active picklist field, active picklist field. So we have a options yes or no. We have a options yes or no. Now you wanted to check, is this picklist field, because this is active is picklist field. Active is picklist field. So if you wanted to check is PickVal, is PickVal, is PickVal, what are the active field? This active field is yes or no. Similarly, is PickVal, Now we have a lead source on the contact, lead source, comma, web. That means lead source equal to web. So whenever you wanted to check a specific picklist field value, field value, then you can use the IspickVal. IspickVal, you will be using it. Now this function is used to compare the currently selected value in the specified picklist field is equal to the specified string literal or a literal or not. String literal is nothing but a text value. Now example is IspickVal rating, comma warm, IspickVal industry, comma manufacturing, IspickVal location, comma Hyderabad. Right, so these are how I'm going to use, which is almost equal to rating equal to warm, rating equal to warm, and then industry equal to manufacturing, industry equal to manufacturing, location equal to Hyderabad. Industry location equal to Hyderabad. So which is equal to these all. Now let's go ahead and see the use case. Create a validation rule on the account to make sure the active status should be yes for a new accounts. Now here two things are there. One is they are so specific about the new account. That means I need to use IsNew function. And then I have a field that I'm going to check active. That means IspickVal active, comma, yes, because they are so specific about it should be yes. So let's go ahead and create that. So it's on the account object. So let's go to the object manager, account. Now let's create a validation rule. Now click on new. Now I'm creating the new validation for the active. Active value should be yes. So here rule name, whenever you are giving the rule name, it has to be so specific to the what the validation you are doing it. What the validation you are doing inside it, because in the real time you will have a hundreds of many are there, maybe 20 or 30 validation rules are there. So just by looking at the rule name, you should be able to identify what kind of a validation rule is implemented in this. Right, so that's the reason whenever you are giving a rule name, it has to be specific to the condition that you entered here. Now here I need to check IsNew function. IsNew function, click on insert, comma. Now I need to check IspickVal. IspickVal. IspickVal insert. Now the field is active field. Insert, and the text literal is, I need to check yes. Right? Now I need these two conditions to be true. So I'm going to add a function called AND. I'm going to add a function called AND. Now, but the validation error message, whenever they select a no, that time it should throw an error because they want the yes to be there. They want yes to be there. So whenever they entered no, that time I need the error message. You can either say here active equal to no, or else you can use the another function here, not. Another function you can use it, not function. Another function you can use it, not function. So IsNew, if it is not a yes in the That means if it is not a active, if it is not a picklist value is not yes. Active picklist value is not yes. In that case, I wanted to show error message. Let's say that error message is new customer record should be active. Should be active. Now I'll display it on the top of the message, top of the page. Now let's click on save. Let's go to the account. In the account, now let's create a new record. So if I create a new record, let's say PicklistVal account. Okay, so that's it. I'll click on save. It is going to show me an error. Account number is mandatory. Okay. PA1002 and click on save. Now it is showing me the new customer record should be active. I need to check where is the active. Active equal to yes. If it is active equal to yes, then it will perfectly fine. But if it is active equal to no, then it is going to throw an error message. And once you create a record, if you again try to edit it, if you make a changes to the active field, for example, if you are changing active field to no, it will allow me because it's not a new record, it is an existing record. The condition which I have written is ISNew function. That means this is only to work on the new function. Now the next one is a create a validation rule on the account to make sure rating should be hot for the banking customer. Okay, let's take this as a homework. This is a homework. This is homework. Create a validation rule on the account object to make sure rating should be hot. To make sure rating should be hot for the banking customers. Now, what is the condition that I need to check? There are two fields are there here. There are two fields are there. One is, it says that banking customers. That means industry should be banking. Industry should be banking. And the another condition, rating should be hot. That means rating equal to should be hot. So these are the two conditions. Now, if you have to implement a validation rule, then what you have to do is you have to put an AND condition. And condition here is IspickVal. Industry, comma, banking, and then comma, IspickVal, rating so IspickVal rating and comma hot. And this is the condition we have to give. If you give this condition, you will be able to test that. This is only for the, they have not mentioned whether it is a new record or an existing record, it is not mentioned. Okay, so you can implement this homework. Now let's check the new function, which is a PriorValue. New function is a PriorValue. So PriorValue field name function. So this function, by using this function, we can get previous value or old value of the specified field. Now I have my picklist values are there. Now, if I wanted to know, for example, if I go to the account or a lead, wherever I go, now let's assume that here we have a type. Type is the picklist field. Now, initially I selected as a prospect. Now I change from the prospect to the different value, customer direct. So when I change this, okay, when I'm changing it, I wanted to know what was the previous one. Before saving it, I wanted to know what is the previous value. Because sometimes prospect to customer direct, I cannot go. Prospect to customer direct, I cannot go. Or for example, prospect to technology partner, I cannot go. I have to come step by step. So if I select this and click on save, I should know that what is the previous value. So is my previous value is a installation partner or is it a different one? If it is a different one, do not allow them to change the picklist field. For that, we use a prior value. So example, prior value of rating, prior value of email, prior value of a maximum budget. Now let's see the use case. Create a validation rule on the account object to prevent the user to change the rating value from cold to hot. That means we should not allow the user whenever they update, whenever they change here rating to cold, whenever they change to cold, once they are in the cold, if they are changing back to the hot, we should not allow them. As soon as they are in the cold, from the cold, if you are changing back to the hot, it should not allow the users to change it. So that means we are going to prevent the user to change the rating value from cold to hot directly. You cannot change that directly. You cannot change that directly. Now let's go ahead and implement. This is on the account object. We are on the account object. Let's go back. Now let's go to the validation rule. Click on a new. Now here I'm going to change rating validation. Now there are two things which I need to check. One is what is the current rating value? What is the previous rating value? What is the current rating value and what is the previous rating value? So I'm going to use here IspickVal. So we have a IspickVal here, IspickVal. Then I'm going to use the field called rating. The field called rating, insert, comma, then we have a hot. We have a hot. And then this is the current value. Similarly, I wanted to check what is the previous value. What is the previous value? IspickVal. Now let's take it as a prior value. Insert prior value. Oh, sorry, that is a function. So it is a prior value. Prior value, let's click on insert and the field is a rating. Rating, comma, cold. If the previous value is a cold and the current value is a hot, then we should show an error message. And IspickVal, current and the previous one, then I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. Check the syntax. Perfect. Now let's give the error message. Let's say that you cannot change the rating. You cannot change the rating from cold to hot. You cannot change the rating from cold to hot. Now I'll show it on the rating field because right now we have only one field, that is a rating. Click on save. Now this validation is going to work for a new record and the existing record because I have not specified anything here, IsNew function. So let's go ahead and check. Now right now I'm cold, cancel. Now this is right now cold. Now I'm changing it to the hot. If I changing it to the hot, then it is going to give me error message that you cannot change the rating from cold cold to hot directly if you want to change it from the cold. For example, right now you have a cold. If you want to go to hot, then you have to go step by step. First, you have to change it to warm, and then from warm, you need to change it to hot. You need to change it to hot. But once you change from hot to cold or warm to cold, you cannot go back to the starting stage of the rating. You cannot go back to the starting stage of the rating. So that is the use case. The next function is a regex. Regex is nothing but a regular expression. Regular expression. Now, why we need this regex function? First of all, regex function has a two parameters here. Two parameters. Field name, regular expression. Field name, the regular expression. Now, these are mostly used in the real time for the phone validation, SSN number validation, Aadhaar card validation, immigration ID validation, right? So these kind of ID validations, we use the regex. So when we are doing the validation there, that means I'm checking the format of it, whether they have entered the phone number format proper, whether they have entered the Aadhaar number proper, right? Whether they have entered the Emirates ID proper. It has a specific format will be there. So the user has to enter in the specific format, right? So in order to check that specific format, Salesforce has given some kind of a wildcard characters. Wildcard characters. That means everything will be represented in the form of group of a characters. So everything will be placed in the square brackets. So square brackets, whatever you see is, it represents the group of characters. For example, in this bracket, if you say SPR, then it represents the words. So it has to be in the format of SPR, which has been prepared by using the specified character. Now, if you say in the bracket, square bracket, small a hyphen p, it represents the words. That means which has been prepared by the using the specified character. You can use it only between these characters from small a to capital P. If you say small capital A to capital R, the wild character, whatever the field is there, the field only should contain the letters between the capital A to capital R. And if you say 0 to 9, so that particular field value should be containing only the numbers between the 0 to 9. And if you say number here in the curly braces number, that means it's a number of characters. How many number of characters? Like 3 digits, 4 digits, how many number of characters should be there? Right, so let's go ahead and implement one scenario. Now, if we go to the object, let's go here, candidates, discard. So when you go to the candidate, in the candidate, we have a something called Aadhaar number. We have, PAN card number. We have a PAN number. Now let's suppose here the PAN number. Usually the PAN number is, let's take some example, ALLP or ALPPG 7878E. This is the format. This is the format. Now, if you observe here, if you observe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 are 5 digits, right? And then we have a 5 alphabets, and here 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 numbers, and then we have a 1 character. So that means here 5 alphabets, 4 numbers, and 1 alphabet. This is the format. If the user enter more than 5 digits, another one here, they have entered another one here, Y, then it should throw an error. It should throw an error. For this, how can we write a regex? So first of all, you need to check 5 characters. Characters is nothing but should be character, could be a small letter or a capital letter. That means it will be in between the capital A to Z or could be in between the small a to Z. So like this, I need a 5 characters. I need a 5 characters. This is the number field, 5 characters. And this represents how many, what are the, within this 5 number or a 5 characters, what can we accept it? Can we accept only alphabet? If it is a alphabet, only in the capital letter or only in the small letter, or both can work, but not accepted here the number. And next 4 numbers are only the numbers. Then in that case, curly brace, the square bracket 0 to 9, and then you can say here 4, number 4. And after that, I have a 1 letter. That letter is also could be a small letter. That letter also could be a capital letter. So I'll use it A to Z and comma small a to Z. And how many numbers? Numbers are only 1 number. Only 1 number. Now this is how we specify it. This is how we specify. Now let's implement a validation rule for this. If the user is not entered in this format, if the user is not entered in this format, then we have to show an error message. Now let's go to the candidate object manager. Let's search for a candidate. Let's search for a candidate. Now here validation rule. Now click on a new validation. Now I'm going to, this is for the PAN number validation. PAN number. Validation. Now here, we need to use the function called regex. We need to use the function called regex. Regex is where you need to, first parameter is the field. So the field is a PAN number. Insert the PAN number. Now regex text, you need to enter the regex text in the quotation. What is the text here that we have already implemented? So I'm going to place that here. Now, whenever the user not entered in this format, whenever the user does not enter in this format, then I wanted to show the error message. Now click on check syntax. Now I'm going to show the error message. Please enter the valid PAN number. Valid PAN number. Now this I'm going to show it onto the specific to the PAN number. Click on save. Now here I already have a incorrect text here. I already have a incorrect text. AWL is there. So total 5 digits. So 3 digits only it says character, right? But actually 5 digits should be character. Let's click on a save. Now it is giving me error. It is giving me error. Now in case if you wanted to show in the error, what is the format that they have to use it? So you can say here, valid number, 5 alphabet, 4 numbers, and 1 alphabet. Click on save. Now again click on save. Now it is giving me the details. Now I need to enter here. Let's say PG, and then 4 should be the valid numbers. Now the last one should be E. Now click on save. Now it is accepting it. Now similarly, you are going to do it for the homework. Create a validation rule on the account object to validate the phone number. Now in the phone number on the account object, if you observe, like phone number can be accepted text also. Now let me edit this account record. Now I can enter this and also alphabet. This also alphabet. Now what I want is format, in a sense, it should be proper format, right? It should accept without any spaces, without any hyphen, without any brackets. If I type bracket also, it should show me an error. So only should be accepted this format. That means all numbers, total, what are the digits are there? So 10 digits, right? So it should accept only 10 digits, not more.
Ma'am, your voice is not audible. Ma'am, are you there?